gosh.
We live. Hi, I'm so excited.
Hi.
Hey, everybody. It's going. It's going. It's going.
We did it. We're here.
We did it and we're here. The people are coming into the room. And if you want to share it on your page, Evie.
Okay, how do I do that? I'm on Facebook.
You can go to, and I'm still figuring this. So, hello, Michelle Travato. Hi.
Hi, Michelle. So there we are. There we are. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Share it. Okay, cool.
Okay, you got it?
Yeah.
Yay, Randall McGee. Eventually, I'm going to figure out how to.
So you can see everybody?
No, I can see everybody from my side.
Oh, okay. So if I went on my Facebook, I'd be able to see.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw that.
Okay, I'm going to send all this love to you. Hi, Randall, with the gorgeous voice. Lauren!
Lauren, oh my gosh. I love you.
I know. This is the first time I'm streaming to YouTube, everybody. And I know. I should have already had done all of this good stuff. Yes, we're live on on a YouTube too. We are live on YouTube from the Kiki Convos page. Kiki Konversations, sorry, YouTube page. Hi, Omer.
Hi.
Yeah.
This is so nice.
David. Hi, David.
Hey. Oh, Karen.
Emily.
Hi, BBF.
Hi, Emily. I know. Oh, we're going to talk about that too. How I used to sleep on your couch.
Oh my God. 311 Broadway. I just told everybody our old address.
Yay. So
the original place.
The original place. Yes.
I found that place in a paper version of the New York Times when that existed. It was like the mid-90s. I mean, I'm dating myself right now, so just pretend you're not hearing any of this, but
nobody's hearing any of this.
I used to work in a bakery in Yardley, Pennsylvania. And on Saturday morning, I knew I was transferring to MSM and I knew I had to find a place. So on Saturday morning, when I was working in the bakery, I was looking in the back of the New York Times in the real estate section. Oh my God. And there was a 3-bedroom for $1,300 on Broadway between Tiemann and LaSalle. And I remember going with my friend Noelle Barbera. I don't know if y'all know Noelle, but she's an amazing human and musician. And anyway, we got off the New Jersey Transit, got on the subway, and got out at 116th and just kept walking. And just kept walking and just kept walking. And at that time, it was a totally different neighborhood than it is now. And it's the kind of neighborhood where you make friends with the local drug dealers because they'll protect you and they're like your buddies, you know? Mm-hmm. And so anyway, we looked at the place and it was perfect. And that's where we lived our sophomore year of Manhattan School of Music. And many, many parties, many crazy, silly, horrible, amazing things went on in that apartment. And I think we officially retired it it was like 10 years ago or something. We officially retired it and they've since gut renovated it. You know, we're talking like tenement building. And now there's Michelle said, there's a chandelier in the lobby. And I think they sold the place for over $1 million. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But it's a really different neighborhood there now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Hi, dear. Yes, I remember that. I'm surprised that they update, made it all upper echelon, as they say.
I mean, the whole area.
Wow.
They were waiting for everybody to move out so they could get renovated and make their money, you know?
There you go. Okay, so we're going to start. I just want to say cheers to you, Eve. You know, I love you.
Cheers.
And I'm so happy to have you on the show. Ding, 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 ding,
So
ding,
much
ding.
for inviting me.
Of course.
Incredible platform.
Listen, I had no idea. Anyway, we love combos. It's amazing.
We love combos.
So I'm not going to go and read all of her fabulous accomplishments because Eve is like amazing. But I mean, Metropolitan Opera, San Francisco, Washington, Detroit Symphony, all the places, Houston Grand Opera, and all the big places, and all of the I love to say wonderful places in the middle. Eve is a champion of new work of American composers, directors, librettists. She is a fierce woman. I have always admired my friend Eve, and she really is my sister. And I know I always tell her that you're my sister from another mister. I always say that.
You put up with me, yeah.
You know, from the moment I met you, I was like, we're gonna be friends forever. And I just always admired your tenacity, your commitment to everything you sing. The way you always make magic of the black notes on the white page. I mean, from day one, I remember hearing Eve sing "Il est doux, il est bon" from Herodiade, and we must have been like 20 years old.
20 something, yeah.
20 something.
Yeah.
And her voice, I was like, my God, just this whole column of beautiful, gorgeous sound. And so I've always been a fan, and I love you so much.
I love you too. Thank you so much. I'm gonna cry already.
That's okay.
Barbara Walters of opera interviews, and now I'm gonna cry.
I love it. We cry, we drink, we spill tea, and then we go home. You know, that's how it works. But,
so it's all true. Everything you said is true. No, it is true, but it doesn't feel like it's true. You know, like it's interesting. I was just like gonna look back, and you hear somebody else say it, and you're like, who is that? What, you know? Because I'm just going day by day, just trying to work. You know.
Yeah.
I just consider. I always think of myself as a worker bee. You know. And I'm comfortable being a worker bee. And I just want to work. And so I try to take every opportunity that comes along, because you never know who you're going to get to work with, and you never know what you're going to learn. And you always get to make magic. I mean, we make magic. That's what we do. And so I feel I never take it for granted, ever, 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 because it could be, as we all know, it could be gone in a day.
Exactly. It literally in a day. Hi, Kathy. Before we get really into it, and I got a surprise for you. I got one for you, Eve.
Oh God.
Warren Jones. Where you been, sir? I haven't seen you. Oh,
about baby. Like Warren met me when I was a fetus.
There you go. Oh, Warren, I hope you're healthy.
I love you so much. How are you? I hope you're well.
He's in New York, probably. Big hug. So please tell everyone, tell the audience about my friend Eve. How did you get started into music, Eve?
Karen. Okay, so here's the story. I always sang. There was never a time in my life when I wasn't singing, when I wasn't fascinated by sound, when I wasn't making sound, right? In whatever form that took. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with Annie. I wasn't introduced to opera until much later in my life. So I was a musical theater kid, and I wore my Les Mis tape to the point where it warped. I mean, it was an obsession. I would, my brothers would be in the back seat of the car with me on the family trip, and I'd be like with a chorus line in my little tape player, like such a dork, but I loved music, and I wanted to be an actor, and I wanted to sing, and I didn't know what opera was. And then this is a famous story, everybody from Yardley out there that's watching, when I was like, 13 years old or something, in 7th grade. And I got cast as Mother Abbess in The Sound of Music. Now, how many opera singers out there have been cast, female opera singers have been cast as Mother Abbess in The Sound of Music, right? Exactly. It's like a rite of passage. And it's like one of those things where it's one of those benchmarks where it's like, oh, you have a voice, And I remember discovering the reaction, discovering the power of it. When I was in that show, and the reaction that I got, my family, but I mean, there are still people to this day that remember this show in this little town called Yardley, and I just remember that power that I had to transcend and communicate and to reach people, and it made me special, but it was a gift. I knew it was a gift, and music has also always been the place for me to escape, and my safe place, and the place that I went to that took me somewhere else when I needed to be somewhere else. And now I'm gonna cry, but yeah, so it was always something that was part of who I am as a human being on this planet. And then when I made the choice to study post high school, I had a choice. I could go into an acting program. I could have gone into a musical theater-ish program, or I could have gone into a classical music program. And I remember realizing that the one thing that distinguished me from the other actors was the fact that I could sing, like really sing. And so I figured I'd go cultivate that one thing that made me stand out. And then if I wanted to come back into musical theater or whatever, that I would. But then, of course, when you make that choice, and then the doors just kept on opening up for me in that, down that road, that classical music road. And so it wasn't until college that I was introduced to what opera was. And it wasn't a couple of years in until I really found my way into what opera was for me. That took me a while because I wasn't raised with it. I come from a middle-class suburban upbringing, and it always seemed like this fancy, shiny other thing. And I, as like a middle-class American kid, I didn't know how to get in. Like I didn't know what it, it was a foreign language, and this very kind of elitist attitude at the time about the art form and the preciousness of it. And it wasn't until I saw Renee Fleming at the Metropolitan Opera, I'll never forget that moment, singing in Susanna, in Floyd's Susanna, sitting on the rooftop of the house on the set singing Ain't It a Pretty Night. And we would get the nose, we would get the standing room in the family circle, like or whatever. And we'd go all the time. And then I remember just like standing there when I could stand for that long in heels, and standing there, and it was my epiphany moment. That was when the light went on. She was singing about something that I had a direct relationship with. And she was singing American music, and she was singing in my language, and I got it. And from that moment on, that was the thing that really lit me up, was when I really felt a direct relationship with the material, with what with what we're saying, right? And why we're saying it.
Absolutely. I mean, I've never heard any of my other my white colleagues speak about seeing opera for the first time, and that representation matters, right? You saw this woman who looked like you singing music, and words and texts that were related to you.
Yes.
And that changed. That you had the epiphany. You know, so many of us come through opera. So many Black singers come through opera, from Jesse Norman, Leontine Price, Denise Graves. You know, but you rarely ever hear other people talk about it. You know, who are of color. You know, and that's fantastic.
Yeah. So thank you, Fleming.
Yes.
And also Lauren Flanagan, I have to say.
Yes.
So that was the other person that I always watched, and and Joyce Castle, the trio.
Yes,
because they're just masters of American opera.
I remember seeing Joyce Castle on PBS. I remember seeing Lauren Flanagan on television.
Yes, PBS. What was it? Central Park, City Opera.
Yes, please somebody tag Lauren on this and let her know we're talking about her. We're loving on her. Yeah,
and Joyce Castle, and these people are stage animals, like just the energy that they channel is tremendous. And, so they're big idols of mine.
Absolutely. So you go to the Metropolitan as a kid. Your family, your dad and your mom liked opera?
They didn't know anything about it. So I love my family dearly. I love you all very much.
I love them too.
My immediate family did not listen to opera in the household. The interesting story is that I have a great aunt. Well, she's passed. She passed when I was about 7, but she was an opera singer. Did you know this? Her name was Mary Sedano. And she grew up in Pendle, Pennsylvania. Studied at the Settlement Music School in Philadelphia.
Yay!
My mom saved me this box of her music. She played the piano. She was a much better musician than I'll ever be. She was really serious about the music, and she studied it from a young woman. Mm-hmm. Wrote Curtis a letter asking them how you get into Curtis, like a typed letter, like very serious. She had a beautiful voice, and the legend goes that there was a sponsor that wanted to support her education at Juilliard, but this is like 1930s, 1940s, first generation Italian American young woman, and you don't go to New York and go into showbiz. Like, that's just not what you do. No. You get married and you have a family and you stay home. And so that's what she did. She got married and she continued to sing in our town and on the radio. And I have this picture of her playing in a band, like a folk band, an accordion and a guitar and piano, and there's like this joy on her face, and it's on my bedside table because every time I would walk into Curtis, she used to have lessons there. She never actually went there. Mm-hmm. Every time I walked into that building, it was like, I'm carrying on something that she was not able to do, right? And I feel like as women, that's a big part of when you're able to achieve things and experience things. Every time I walk onto that stage and I'm about to perform, I say thank you. Because I know that there is a long line of people that never had that opportunity for whatever reason. And I'm grateful. And so I always think of my Aunt Mary, and I have her notes in my, in my bookshelf. And I think about her a lot because I'm honoring her by continuing to be able to do what it is that we both wanted to do,
Yes.
But there was no opera in my immediate household. My mom is deaf, so there was a whole interesting. There's a whole other subplot to my life that's very interesting, but my mom is interesting because she would get Judy Garland and Deanna Durbin and crank it up. Just crank it up. So without her hearing aid, she couldn't hear at all. But with her hearing aid, she could lip read, and she had partial hearing. So she would crank up these operatic sounds, essentially, right? So and listen to the sound wash over her. Mm-hmm. you know, it was interesting because she doesn't have the capacity to really hear me, but she watches me. Mm-hmm. And so she loves to watch, and she picks up on everything just with physicality and facial expression and body movement and everything. So
yeah, no, I love your mom. So, you know, it's so funny how so many of us have come through this career, this life, still remaining friends, and that our families, since we started so young together, so many of us know each other's moms and dads and brothers and sisters. And as my dad, how's Eve? You know, he's always like on 10, you know, my dad loves you so much. And, you know, and just your mom and dad, I do remember them. And, you know, your mom and a big hug, Karen, you know, her name. And, you know, your dad was this big guy. And so, you know, it's almost like you feel so connected through the music, through the families, through all of your brothers and, you know, and everybody. And so it's beyond the music. The music is the portal, right? It's the way in, and then there's all this other stuff that we all experience together.
And we bring joy, right? We bring joy to our families. I mean, my brother's a musician as well. My little brother is an incredible musician, and he's got a band. It's called Crucial, and they play in Philly a lot. Actually, they have like a following. I mean, you know, they're extremely good. Uh-huh. It's like roots, reggae, bluegrass. Wow. And he writes songs that are incredible, and he's so talented. So, you know, it's in the genes, you know, and it's kind of cool to see how it comes out of all of us. My niece, oh, I shouldn't say her name, but my niece,
hey, Niecy.
Hi, Niecy. She's like, you know, she's playing the piano, she's singing.
Wow.
And, I mean, and I'm just so proud of her and excited. It's like, because you see it, you know, like you see it getting passed down.
Yes.
And part of me's like, don't do it as a career, but keep on enjoying yourself, you know, like.
Keep practicing, but
stay in school.
Yeah, exactly. So speaking of school,
yes,
you go to high school and you're like, are you like a band kid? Are you a choir kid? And then you go to college?
Oh man, the biggest regrets of my life. I dropped my instrument. And, you know, we never had a piano in our house, but I always coveted the piano that was at my cousin's house. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so I thought I was going to be an actress. Like, I was like, I don't need to like learn music theory. I knew nothing. I knew nothing. So there's this story where freshman year, I went to Carnegie Mellon my first year, and then I transferred to Manhattan School. So I'm in music history class at Carnegie Mellon University, and they're like, please turn to page 54. We're going to talk about Wagner. Okay. So this is a true story. I turned to page 54, and I'm like, I raised my hand. I mean, there's a Wagner. There's a guy named Wagner. There's no Wagner on this page. Yeah, that's how far. Like, so nothing. Like, I had such a huge learning curve. It was embarrassing, but I could tell you like every actress on television, and I could tell you every show that's opening on Broadway, and I could, you know, but yeah. So. What was the original?
So you go from being a high school and you want to be an actress. Yeah. And you go to Carnegie Mellon.
Yeah. So my high school was an incredible place. I went to this Quaker school outside of Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. And so it was like very well-rounded, and I had a lot of, I was exposed to people from all over the world that I would have never been exposed to if I had stayed in my public school, even though that was an also wonderful school. But the right move for me was to go to this private school. I got almost a full scholarship to go, and I was really fortunate to have that experience. It really opened my eyes to what was out in the world. And then I went to Carnegie Mellon for 1 year, and then I found myself in New York, finally, at Manhattan School of Music, and finally found my people, you know, like you find the other total nerd freaky geeks that are just as excited about the same things that you are. And, you know, I mean, it was like it was like one of the best moments of my life, like just tremendous growth. Just being in New York City as a teen, I was like 18, 19. I mean, like, we went to all the clubs, like we did that. I mean, we had full run of the place, you know. This is before cell phones, thank God, and before, before people were documenting everything. So the stories were legendary, thank God. But you know, we lived, like, we had this beautiful time in our summers in Chautauqua, and I met Marlena Malis and started working with her, and she was kind of my first really significant voice teacher. And then you're like, oh, okay, this is going to be the track. This is going to be my path. And then I got into Curtis, and when you get into Curtis, they treat you in a very specific, special way. So I honestly thought that I was going to graduate Curtis and someone was going to say, here's your career. Congratulations. Here's your career. Have a good time. You've been blessed, you know, like that's really what I thought was going to happen, as opposed to like taking a good look in the mirror and saying, this is not in order. You are not ready. Go figure out what you need to do to get ready and go figure out your life, you know? So, I did like 1 year of a young artist program. It was a tremendously difficult year because things weren't working vocally. This is when I was a soprano. It took me a while to figure out that was part of the issue, is that like we all thought I was a soprano, and for a while I was, and then my voice just kind of like took a shift and nobody like picked up on it. Like, it never occurred to me. I'm sure it never occurred to my teachers, but nobody was really like listening with that kind of an ear. And so I found myself in a position where I was really trying to make something happen that wasn't right. And I was just pushing and screaming, and it didn't feel good and it wasn't right. And I didn't know what to do, but I knew it wasn't right. And nobody else was really telling me the truth. And I finished that program. I didn't get invited back. I moved to New York. I got 10 jobs, and I tried to find people that could help me figure it out. And one of those jobs was singing contemporary opera, because I wasn't fucked. I didn't have to put myself into a category and sing the same 5 arias that everybody sings. I could actually like figure out who I was as an artist and figure out what my voice wanted to do without having that like pressure. So I worked, I waited tables, I worked in an office, I had a church job, and I found sponsors. And I never stopped studying. I wasn't always working with the right people at the right time, but I never stopped trying to figure it out. And then finally, after I had turned, I turned 29, and I went to EVI. It was my last ditch effort to try and figure it out. And I was still a soprano. And I went to EVI, and I was like, there are 2 wonderful teachers here. I'm going to work with both of them. And if they can't help me, then I can honestly say I did everything within my power, and I can let it go. And that's when I met Ruth Falcon. May she rest in peace.
Yeah.
And she took me on, and she liked to take wounded little birds and nurse them back to health. she heard what was in there, and she made a commitment to me. And I again found a sponsor and went for it. And a couple months in, she was like, "Are you sure you're not a mezzo?" And I was like, "What?" I mean, nobody had ever brought it up before, ever.
No, I don't ever remember us ever talking about
it. Never occurred to any. I mean, we thought we were going to be lirico spinto. I sang a lot of mimis, which is like almost all middle voice. And it just never occurred to me, because she's like, your lower register is there and it's easy. And I thought to myself, well, if I have to rebuild my voice, why don't we start from the bottom up?
Mm-hmm.
Because I had been just like clobbering the heck out of it.
Yeah. Or just trying to thin it out so much to
just sort of thin it out so I could negotiate up there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just like letting it settle and letting it go down and building up from the structure. So that's what we did. And then I went back to school while still working a part-time office job. I did my professional studies at Manus under Ruth's tutelage and graduated in 2009, went to the Glimmerglass program, got management by the end of that summer, and then made my Met debut that next spring.
Wow.
So when everything kind of lined up and it was right, it happened.
Mm-hmm. But talk about the time between
years,
Let's say how many years?
15. I mean, I was 33 when I made my Met debut. Like when all that stuff started falling in line, I was 33 years old. And I had been studying since I went to school 17. You know? And that wasn't the end. Like, it wasn't like, woo, finish the credit. I know everything. Yeah. I still had to like continue to work and build. And like, once I figured out the rep I was singing, I still had to like figure out how to sing it. I mean, I wasn't yet a dramatic mezzo. Like I still had a couple of years to like work on that rep, work on the technique. And I started working with wonderful David Jones. And I've just done a ton of work on my voice, and I work with Tony Manoli and Wilson, just to get all my shouts out. And
yes, Tony, we love you,
Tony. Yeah. And so but it takes a village. And the one thing that I don't really teach when I teach, I've taught here and there. I feel like it's such a huge responsibility to teach, because I know what it meant to me to seek out that kind of help. And it's not something to me, and frankly, I don't want that responsibility. It's such a huge responsibility. I would much rather coach and talk to people about process and their own way in dramatically. But when it comes to like pedagogical work, like I'm just like, okay. I lost my train of thought, but I
want to not talk about, but just reiterate the fact that someone can go to a couple of major conservatories, get 3 degrees, can be on the track to go and have all of the important people in the industry, but if it's not right, it's not right. And you have to have the reality, that real talk with yourself, even though other people around you who you trust are telling you or not telling you, you have to it's that thing inside of you that's like, no, this is not right. And I remember singing at the Met, or covering at the Met, or singing at the Met or something, sleeping on your couch, and being like, my friend should be out there singing. My friend, and you were like grinding, you're working like 4 jobs, coaching. Yeah. You're the only singer that I know personally, and that's in my personal orbit, that would work like 4 jobs and then take a coaching at like 8 p.m.
Right.
Get up in the morning and work. And you were always so dedicated and committed to getting the work done.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, because I love it, right? We were saying this before. I mean, it's just like, I love it. I love the work.
Yeah.
Hi, Sarah. Hi, Sarah. It's right. If it's not right, it's not right. And, and this is what I was going with before, was like, the few times I have worked with people, I always make sure to tell them to listen to their lesson. Mm-hmm. Listen to your lesson. I have such anxiety sometimes about listening to performances and lessons or rehearsals, but that is the best teaching tool. It's like you need to look in the mirror, right? Like, it's like you need to, if you don't like what you're hearing, you need to do something about it, right? Mm-hmm. And what I had done as a young singer was just said, it's tricky because I didn't know anything, but on the other hand, it's like I wasn't listening to myself. at the time, right? So I wouldn't listen to my lessons because I didn't like the way it sounded, and I didn't feel like it was. And I just was like, la 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 la. I'm at Curtis. I'm just gonna keep my blinders on and just like wait for them to hand me my career, right? But listening to your lessons and listening to your coachings and listening to your performances is one of the best things you can do for yourself, because then you know what you need. And you can dictate. You can say, hi, here's where I am. I get super tense on this, out over my passaggio, my top is tight, or my vibrato is too wide down here. I don't know how to support this sound, or it feels stuck when I'm trying to make this transition. If you aren't able to break down those things for yourself and have that language to bring it to somebody and say, can you help me with X, Y, and Z? Then you're doing yourself a disservice. Like, you really have to be able to listen to yourself. And I'm telling you, like, sometimes it's not easy. Like, for me, it's not easy. Like, it's very anxiety inducing, because sometimes I don't want to listen to myself, or sometimes you need a couple days and then you listen. But you are your own best teacher is the moral of that story.
Absolutely. You must know how to teach yourself. You must know how to get yourself out of trouble.
Yes. And know how to ask the right questions. And if somebody cannot answer that question for you, then you need to find somebody who can answer that question for you.
Yes.
Because they are out there.
There are people out there. This is wonderful. Thank you, Lee.
Hi, Lee. I worked for Lee in the Juilliard admissions office.
You did.
Low point. Not because of you, Lee, but because I had like come back to New York and nothing was happening in my life, and I was just like opening envelope after envelope. Javi Abreu, I love you, Javi. Envelope after envelope of like people wanting to audition for Juilliard, and like these people with like dreams and hope and young talent, and I'm just sitting there like, how am I ever going to get back in the game? Like, how am I ever,
Yeah, absolutely. Karin.
Hi, Karin.
So talk about, so why opera? We had, you and I talk already about these things, talk about career and all this stuff. And now that we are in this point in our careers where we are not only still performing and singing, but we're like selling opera and talking about it and having to promote it. Because you and I want you to please talk about how you are a producer. Eve has always been a producer. This woman hustles. She produces long before, encouraging me to go, get your behind together. You need to get your, production and do things and create your own opportunities. But like, why opera? What's your why?
Oh my God, Karen, that's such a good question. It's weird, right? It's like, why? What is this thing, and why are we doing this? And when I sing, I vibrate on a different plane. When I sing and I share music, I know that I'm communicating with people on another level. It's not tangible, right? It's emotional, it's spiritual. It's something other. It's a superpower. I think opera is, if you can sing opera, you have a superpower. If you're an artist, you have a superpower, right? It's a way to share empathy and reach people through vibration, and vibration that comes from your body and is received through someone else's body. I mean, it's a tremendous thing. So I don't know. Am I addicted to it? I sound like I'm addicted to it. I'm just like, I love it.
Oh, you said something earlier. You said calling.
Calling, yeah. This is what I was going to say. Every artist has a calling. I was telling you earlier, I was listening to Mark Moran's podcast. He was interviewing Patti Smith. And if you have a chance, go listen to her, because she's amazing. And she was talking about the calling, and every artist has a calling. There's no one in their right mind that would choose to pursue this kind of a vocation if they weren't called from a deep spiritual place about it. Whatever your religion, or it's just about it. It comes from someplace deep. It's a vocation. And it's my religion in that way. You know, it's my way of connecting with humanity and being alive. So when I can move people through music, then I feel like that's why I'm here. That's one of the gifts I've been given. It's my responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like as artists, we have a responsibility
Mm-hmm.
to Rusty. Yeah, we have a responsibility to honor our gifts.
Mm-hmm.
And fortunately, I am in a place with my life where that is supported by my partner, by my family, because that's a big part of it too. I'd never be able to do this if I didn't have a partner that was my champion.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm a mother. I am raising a family. It's a lot of work, but it's who I am, and it's an important part of who I am. Mm-hmm. They understand that, and I think they love me for that. You know, so
absolutely. Now I met Josh, I think one time, your husband.
Yeah.
And I remember when you met him and you were like, I think this guy, you're like, I think I'm going to marry him, or I think he's the one. And I'm like, what?
I know. I
mean, you know, and then the baby came along, you know.
It happened so fast. But I also feel like it happened yesterday, but I feel like it happened like 15 years ago. I mean, well, it did happen 15 years ago. You know, it did. Isn't that funny? Life is so fast, Karen. Like, it goes like this. I mean, we've known each other since we were, 18, 19 years old?
19, 20, something like that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. How much life have we lived? And it's incredible. And then it just feels like it goes by in a second. You know, it's funny. I never had a family or a husband in my purview until I reached the goal that I wanted to reach for me professionally, like until I made my Met debut.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like I had established myself artistically in a way that I had worked so hard for so long that I felt like now I'm ready. Mm-hmm. Now I'm ready to say I want a family. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I know that I want to cultivate a home for myself. Mm-hmm. And I went into the world with that knowledge, and I started just dating. And then I met Josh, and I don't know, like, you know, it was not complicated. It just one thing happened after the next, and it was when it's right, you know, when it's right, and you know when it's not, and this was right. And then we knew that we wanted to have a family, and we were blessed to have this incredible baby. And then the whole other, then the reality of being a singing mom came in, which is a whole, and nothing can prepare you for it. Nothing can prepare you for it. It's being on the road, working with a baby was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. And you know, vocally, it affected me. It can't not. When your kid's up all night with an ear infection and you're in a town that you don't know, and you really have to rely on your colleagues and your friends and the opera house and every different town getting the pack and play and getting the babysitter and getting the schedule and it was tremendously difficult. And now I'm in a place where he stays home and I go because he's in school. He's older. He's 7 now, which is a whole nother level of heartbreak, and adjustment. But nobody's going anywhere right now, so you know we're all we're all home, and I'm doing an opera. And I did an opera in my house this weekend. I did an opera in this very room this weekend.
Wow, what'd you do?
Alice in the Pandemic. It was White Snake Projects. It was this amazing premiere opera by Jorge Sosa and Cerise Lynn Jacobs wrote the libretto. And it was a story about a mother and a daughter losing touch with each other in the pandemic in New York. And the daughter searched for her mother through the city, and she ends up going down the rabbit. She meets a rabbit, goes down the rabbit hole, and is searching for her mother. And it's kind of like a fever dream. And hi, Wyatt! And and at the end, it's about hope. It's about loss. It's about COVID. It's about live opera in the COVID time, because the thanks, Sam. The three singers, Karami Hilaire, Daniel Moody, and myself, who are both incredible, amazing colleagues and singers. And shout out to John Robertson, so we were all singing live, and the sound engineer, John, was taking each of our feeds that were coming to him through Pro Tools and syncing them together in real time. So it was like a 5-second delay.
Okay.
And then there was a whole technical crew that built a CGI world based on kind of gaming technology.
Oh, okay.
The audience entered this CGI world on their screen, and then there was some live action, which was us, and then there were some avatars that were built with motion capture technology. And so it was about an hour, and it was this incredible feat of figuring out how opera can continue to innovate and come to you live, because that was the thing, was that the three soloists were, I was literally in my room at 7:30 on Friday and Sunday and Tuesday, singing in my camera to the ether, and it was happening in real time. And so it was this really interesting way of experiencing performing live, because it was extremely risky. I mean, I had to clear phlegm in my throat, and the camera's like right here in my face. There's nowhere to hide, and it's happening in real time. So you get that excitement of live performance, but it's COVID safe because it's actually happening over the internet.
Yeah. Is that where we're going, you think? I mean, if people don't wear their mask and stay home
it's interesting. As I've been talking to people, the audience that tuned in, a large portion of the audience was a completely new audience that were coming into it for the technology. And then they were like, oh, hey, opera's cool. So it was interesting because it opened the door to this audience that we've been trying to tap into. And as Elena was saying, they were seeing an aesthetic that they were familiar with, right? The gaming and the CGI. And then they got introduced to something that was new to them, that they were thrilled by.
Right.
So I think that once this pandemic is over, there's going to be a tremendous amount of growth around the innovation that we've been forced to discover. And I think it's going to continue. I don't think it's going to replace, but I think that it will adhere itself to the bigger picture, and will. I think it's great. Actually, I think it's. I think it is great. So they took a tremendous risk. There were so many people working so hard, and it was like Mimi called it the moon landing, and it was that first step into something that was completely new, uncharted territory. And the thing that made it really palpable was that the solo singing was happening in real time.
Right.
And I think there's a big difference between that and pre-recorded material. So yeah, I think it is I know Whitesnake is gonna continue this model throughout the pandemic. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry. No. Do you think, hi Andrea. Andrea just said love us. Love you guys. AJ. Yeah. So in keeping with that model, I want to ask you two questions. I want to ask you, why new music? Why do you resonate so much with contemporary modern music as an artist? Because I know you sing traditional, whatever the hell that means. You know what I mean? The standard, the repertoire,
yeah.
right? And like, what is that? And also, the second part of that question is, what is that? What is this new technology and this new way? Due to the classics and the traditional bel canto way that we're all trained to sing.
Mm-hmm.
What will happen with these voices that do not, that go, all this stuff. So I want to ask you who has weight in both places.
Yeah. So really interesting because, I'm a dramatic mezzo. Mimi has this luscious lirico spinto voice. We did not change anything in our singing. It was straight on operatic singing. And in the beginning, I was like, "Ooh, you guys, like, why?" I was like, "Jorge, why are you writing like above the passaggio? Because then it gets so big, and then like with the mic, and then it's not going to sound right. It's going to be distorted and weird. And should we just accommodate for the microphone and just write within a certain range, and you'll get the same effect because of the mics?" And he was like, "No, I want that sound. I want that sound. I respond to that sound." And so we had an amazing sound engineer. We had and Tian was our music director, who just really encouraged us to. I just sang the way I sing, and John made sure it sounded good. That it didn't top out at the A flat, that it didn't lose the overtones, and but it's a huge trust exercise because somebody else has their finger on controlling that, and so yeah, it's weird in that way because you're not resonating in a live space. What people are experiencing is also on their computers or their laptops, and it's like, what kind of speaker system do they have, and what are they hearing? So there are all of these things that will definitely come into play, I think, as we move forward. And I hope that we don't compromise the vocalism because of the medium, because I don't think we need to.
Right.
But I do think that we can use the facility of a microphone to even further the expressive palette, because we don't have to like sing to the person in the back of the seat. So there can be an effect made with Sprechstimme or whisper or clicking, or there's all kinds of, there are so many more colors. In a way, there's so many more colors to the palette. If you want to embrace the technology, but that doesn't mean you have to compromise the technique, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. I mean, I thank you for saying that, because there is this, and even myself thinking, oh, I'm going to have to change the way I sing if I'm singing in this realm, but I've not thus far. So, but this is mental. But I had a conversation with a voice teacher, because I do as well. And I love new work. I love composers. I love librettists. I love that it has expanded my passion for opera with my exploration of new works. But I do feel like I feel compromised because of the way certain pieces that I've had to do has not called for me to use my entire instrument in a way, and the things that work for me, me, I'm the long line queen. So like, if I keep singing long lines forever and ever and ever and ever, like, but new don't require, the ones that I've had does not require that level of technique. And so please talk about that.
Yeah, well, that means, yeah. Oh, I'm going out of the thing. Well, I get excited. Now I'm getting excited.
I know.
Yeah. Widescreen. That's really interesting. I feel fortunate that I have relationships with composers, in so much that I feel that I am able to say, I'm at a point where with certain people that I'm able to say, how about this? How about that? Like, this would be more comfortable. I really want to like let it go here, you know, and they will respond in a beautiful way, right? I think, and then, so now I've gotten to the point where like, I'm not shy about it, you know, where I'll just be like, so this is really hard and this isn't working. And I really want to hold this out for for twice as long. And I don't like the way I sound here, you know, and it'll either be a case of like needing to get it more in my voice, or just needing like somebody to say it's going to be okay, or having a composer really be like, oh yeah, I really love the way this would sit a half step lower. Mm-hmm. And then we shift it down a half step lower and it's like, boom, it's in the spot, right? Mm-hmm. So I would just say, don't be afraid to tell composers what you need, because they want you to make magic with their work, right? And so a composer worth their salt is gonna like soak it all up like a sponge.
Absolutely.
And be like, whatever you need, because we're making magic, you know.
Exactly. Yeah. They want you to love their piece. They want you to sell their piece. They want you to, yeah.
It's within their best interest to listen to you.
Yes, exact. Especially now. Yes, exact. Especially so many of us who are in positions, you know, and people are respected in a way, particularly, I mean, to me, I'm like, if I had a question about new work, I would definitely go to you and be like, Eve, or like, how do I get this thing sold? Who do I go to and talk to about this project? You know, like,
yeah. Well, that's so, and yeah, I was going to say, you know, I was just going to tag on because I want to go in this direction, but just to come back to tagging on to asking the composers, sometimes it's also worth trying something that makes you a little uncomfortable, not vocally uncomfortable, but something you might not have tried before, something that is not in your comfort zone as far as like making a sound that you're not used to or what have you, or just trying something new. Sometimes that is also a good thing to do, just as far as like, what are your limits?
Right.
You know, how far can you stretch yourself? How far can you challenge yourself as far as like, as long as it's serving the piece, as long as like there's a reason for it, then there's a reason to try it, you know?
Right.
But yeah, so as far as like producing, oh Lordy, yeah. So I have all these ideas in my head, and I like in my head want to make all these things happen. Except you know, the money tree I planted in my backyard has yet to bear any fruit. So all I can do is like try to convince people that my ideas are amazing and they need to be. And so far, I've managed to convince a few people. The latest thing that I'm working on right now, we've been working on since June, is it's a radio opera. It's a radio opera. So, you know, we're also inundated with talking about visual and online. It's like, how can we take a concept that exists, right? Radio plays are happening very frequently, but you know, radio operas do exist. There have been a couple, but not in the way that I'm really thinking about it. There's this play called No One Is Forgotten, written by Winter Miller, whom I greatly admire. I saw it a year ago at Rattlestick, and it's about these two women that are they're either journalists or World Health workers. It remains ambiguous throughout the story, but they're being held captive, and they're in this cell for 90 minutes, and they rely on each other and their humanity for each other to survive this containment. And at the end of the piece, they eulogize themselves. And on top of it all, it's funny. It's actually funny. Like, there's a gallows humor to it, which I really was such a release Because when you just hear that, you're thinking, oh God, this sounds like 90 minutes of, being in a jail cell, but it's actually an epiphany. And I was so moved by this piece when I saw it, and I wanted it to be an opera. I was like, this has to be an opera, because chamber opera and smaller operas that can be toured and produced for less money are the way to go right now. Grand opera is harder and harder to produce. So anyway, and it's a relevant story. It's written by a wonderful female playwright, and I just was so interested in this. And then the pandemic hit, and I was like, what if we set the eulogies and just sang them from our houses? And I brought it to Paola Prestini, who's a wonderful composer and huge inspiration of mine, and producer. And she was like, well, what about radio opera? And it never occurred to me, but it was like, well, if you get Foley and electronics and instruments, voice and actors, and we create this whole world of storytelling, operatic storytelling, where you don't have to watch. All you have to do is close your eyes, and your imagination fills in the world, right? And so Skip Shirey and Paola Prestini are the co-composers on this piece, and Elliot Forrest and Kevin Newberry are the co-directors, and Winter is adapting the libretto. And they're incredible people. Kath Britton and I are producing it, and we're premiering the first portion of it here in February. And what I'd really love to do is to present that 20 minutes of material as a broadcast, and staged, so the audience can choose how they want to experience the work. And then they can come back and experience it in a different way and have a different relationship with it. And so it's a COVID-safe way of experiencing operatic storytelling that lends itself to oral, and then you can also stage it and watch it as a staged live stream.
Wow.
So I actually think it's a fantastic idea for an opera company, because it has the visual component, an opera company and a classical radio station kind of partnering together, because we all need to find these partnerships. Yes. And they're like parallel streams of revenue, of consumption, of experience. And as Kevin Newberry says, it's not A, B, or C, it's A, B, and C. Yes. And we're really creating this work that is all of it. And it's a beautiful story, and it resonates. It's about survival. It's about leaning on your humanity in order to survive, which I think, particularly now, we have such a direct relationship to that we hadn't before. So I feel really strongly about it, and I believe in the piece so much. It's just a beautiful piece. And you're gonna start seeing a lot more of it pop out from my social media, because we're gonna be fundraising. So email me and I'll tell you all about it.
Exactly. No, I want to know more, because I got some of my hands it, so I might want to collaborate for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, I know we, I hear you are a leader in our industry, a leader in our art form. How is that going to expand for you? How would you like it to expand for you?
So I remember working on this really cool piece with BMP, and we were at Sawdust rehearsing, and I'm over there in the rehearsal with the singers, and I looked over to Beth Morrison and Paola having a conversation, and I was like, oh, I want to be over there. I want to be in that conversation. And I want to be able to have more of a say in the material of creating material. In addition to singing, I really want to collaborate in making work. And it's interesting because I don't write music and I don't write libretti,
Mm-hmm.
but we all have ideas. We're all artists, and singers have ideas and voices and experiences too. And this is really a collaborative art form. And I look forward to the time when I could apply for a grant for a project based on my idea, as opposed to working with a composer and working with a team as the producer, as the singer producer, as opposed to, because right now the majority of things are composer driven or company driven, and wouldn't it be an incredible idea to actually have a grant for a singer to create a project?
Yes, I have been thinking a lot about that, and I think I mentioned that to Women's Opera Network
Yeah.
about coming up, because there's librettist grants and composer grants and and team grants that have nothing to do with the performers. And so
Right.
I think it would be wonderful if singers, we had our own project grants that we can come to and propose ideas. I think that needs to happen.
That would be incredible, because we've got, I never saw myself as just an interpreter.
Mm-hmm.
There's something incredible to be said for being a vocalist and interpreter and what we do with our instrument. And it's not a question that I would ever do one or the other, but it's like, why can't we be in on that conversation too?
Right, exactly.
Advocacy too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's important, particularly now when companies are looking for ideas. They're getting submitted ideas every day, all the time.
No.
And I think if artists and singers, since we have to be the ones that interpret these people's idea, or it would not be opera without singers, of course. But we need to really buckle down and gather our ideas.
Wouldn't it be great if for conservatories, you could do a recital, or you could produce a work, you could produce a project, you could produce a theater piece, or both. Because just learning, just in the past 5 months of working with Kath and working with the entire creative team and asking questions and getting mentored by these incredible people, everything that is involved in making work and producing work, producing opera,
right,
down to like the equipment you need and the stage and the tech time that you need and all of these things that we're never introduced to and it's like, why aren't we learning all of it?
Right. All of it.
Because it's a different world now.
It is a very different. Oh my God. Who was I talking to? I forget now. And I was saying that there was always like this thing of you sang opera, or you were training to be opera or classical. And then there were the other people who are allowed to do special projects and special things. And
there's also the connotation that if you did anything other than traditional rep, then you were like, somehow something was wrong with your technique.
Right.
Something was like not so great with your voice. So like you had to go do these other things.
Right. And what a disservice. I was just thinking, I was like, dang it, I wish Michael would have told us all how to create all of those amazing projects that we all were able to do. Like, what if that was part of the curriculum? Because he would just create these things and then we just did them. But like, I wish he would have been like, okay, this is how you craft a project. This is how you do. This is how I do
program. This is what we're,
yeah. Absolutely. So let's have some fun questions. Some fun stuff. Let's do some fun things. What's your favorite memory in this whole?
My favorite memory?
Yeah, some fun things. Some fun notes.
Some fun thing, like define an era though. Like it's been like there's so that's very broad.
Late 20th century. No,
right. Hello. God, favorite memories.
No, or like something. It doesn't have to be anything deep.
God, I don't want to go dark or scandalous.
I know
maybe I should go scandalous, but memories.
It's so I know if someone asked me that, I'd be like, I don't know, I didn't party that much. Like I didn't do fun things. I always was like, I gotta.
Oh, I mean, do we want to go there? Because I can't talk about that. I mean, like a lot of people out there already know those stories, but
Save it for the memoir, baby.
yeah, I know. Oof, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so while you're thinking, 5 guests to the dinner party, anybody, everybody, it through history. And Mary, whom I love, JV, and hey, Mary. Yes. 5 dinner guests.
5 dinner guests.
Through history.
Okay. 5 dinner guests. I feel like I want to hang out with Abraham Lincoln.
Okay.
Especially right about now. I want to be like, Abe, help us. Please help us.
Okay.
So I feel like Abe would be interesting. I feel like Mozart would be a lot of fun. Like you kind of have to have Mozart at your party.
Right.
Tom Stoppard. I want Tom Stoppard at my party because he's brilliant. The playwright, Tom Stoppard.
No.
Oh, he wrote Arcadia.
Okay, I'll look him up.
Okay. Rosencrantz goes and then like just for kicks, well, definitely Obama. Like I need to like Michelle.
Well, he'll be there because Abraham Lincoln is like his hero, so he might. You might be there in the conversation.
I invited myself, so I don't have to count him. So, because I definitely want Michelle to like mentor me because she's incredible and unbelievable and amazing. And then, well, 5 people that I don't see on a regular basis because, of course, I'm a kid and my husband. Are we at 5?
You, Tom, Abe.
I need somebody fun, like a Cyndi Lauper or Patti LuPone. Patti LuPone.
Come on. That's a very interesting. I mean, that's 6.
It's 6. Well, Obama invited himself, so.
Okay. Right, because he came with Michelle. He was her.
Michelle. So Michelle, Patty, Abe, Mozart, and Tom, because I feel like Tom would like just like say something really brilliant, and then everybody would be like, world would open, and you'd be like, oh, I've never thought of that before. And then Mozart would be like, let me play it on the piano.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Okay,
that was just like off the cuff. Who knows?
That's a very interesting party.
Yeah, I know. I think about these things sometimes, and I'm like, I don't know. And I feel like I miss so many people. I mean, come on. There's so many people. Only 5.
So many people. So little time. Okay. So, who inspires you? Who inspires you, and not just to create, being an artist, but
who inspires me as a person?
Yeah.
I mean, in my life, probably my I have the fortune of having 2 moms. I have my mom, and she inspires me. But I have like a second mom who is very responsible for a lot of who I am today. Now I'm going to start crying, and she has her own venture capital firm. She's raised 2 boys. She's still married. She still calls me every week and checks in. And she's that one that's always like, boop, boop, keep going. Going. How's this project going? How did you do this? She's the one that keeps me honest and always pushes me because she knows that I can do it.
Yeah.
Do you have people in your life?
Oh yeah.
And it's like there's nowhere to hide with these people.
No. They come and they check up on you. They magically appear, or right when you know.
They believe in you and they know. Mm-hmm. Because of that, then I mean, it's like but they're the ones that are like, let's go. Mm-hmm. Go get that money for that radio opera. You can do it. Boop.
Exactly.
So if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be the person that I am today. I can honestly say. I love you.
Hey, well, we love you. Anybody have questions out there? People get so quiet. I really feel like people like listen and they're so intense, or they go away and then they come back, or they stop midway through and then they come back. Like,
Yeah.
it's amazing. It's
Ask me anything.
yeah, almost anything.
Ask me anything.
So what's the future looking like for you? What do you want it to look like for you when COVID is like a memory?
I want to work.
Yes.
I want to work. It's funny, Karen. I have this. It's me and I'm such a huge fan of, like, the thing that really lights my fire is the new work, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I've always wrestled with the traditional stuff, and in the sense of like finding its truth for me, because I know I can sing the poopers out of it now, like I'm ready, but it's like, how do I find my way in to like the queen's friend who's having an affair with the who's was, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, how do I find my way in to these stories? Is it the music that helps me get in, or do I just need to like bite the bullet? I'm the kind of singer that once I learn a piece, I love it. But starting to learn a piece, I don't love it. I mean, confessions, I don't like. Cracking open a new score is anxiety for me. Once I learn the notes and it starts to like live in my body, then I'm like, ooh, let's do it. And then I do it and I'm like, let's do it again, because you keep learning and the character keeps blooming and you keep, right? And so that's what's so great about that traditional rep. But, it's the my self-motivation to actually sit down and learn these roles. It's like, I need a deadline. Somebody else, please give me a deadline for those dramatic mezzo roles that I should be singing. But and then once it's happening, it's so exciting and I'm in love with it and obsessed with it. Just like sitting down and cracking open the store. I've never been that singer, and I'm always envious of the singers that are like, I've been working on this role since I was 25 years old and I can't wait to get the chance to sing it. Like, I'm like, I learn the roles that I get asked to learn and then I fall in love with them. And if I could change it, I wish I would, but I'm like, is that just my personality or what? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and that's okay.
It doesn't mean that I'm not like passionate about it. It just means that like it's not necessarily the first thing that I would go to.
Right. I understand. And that's good to know, because everyone's like thinking like, oh my God, it's just like, it's all so magical and fairy dust and like, oh, I got this role and I'm, or that it used to be fairy dust. Like, it used to be like, for me personally, it's like, oh my God, I want to learn this part. Now I'm like, it's a lot more harder to get on the horse for certain things, but it's not about me. But David asked, favorite roles, a performance where everything you feel
right into place. I love that question, because my answer is always, my favorite role is the one that I'm currently singing, and that is God's honest truth. I mean, it's like the one that I'm currently working on, the one that I'm in rehearsal for, is my favorite role. Is the role that I'm obsessed with.
Right.
And there are sometimes when I sing a role and I have to work a little bit harder to like, how you like kind of lean on your technique, not even singing, but activation, motivation, maybe the production's not like the most inspired and you're, trying to find the reason and you're trying to find the chemistry and you're trying to, but I'm always really obsessed with the thing I'm currently working on. But I will say, of course, we're coming back to the times I actually got to create a role. Those are my favorite. So,
What role did you create? What roles have you created?
so I created Ruth and Dark Sisters.
See?
And I created Dodo in Breaking the Waves.
Okay, I have a love-hate with that opera.
Tell me.
It's too much like sex and I'm not a prude, but it's too much like.
Where did you see it? Did you see the Philly?
I saw the Philly one, but I mean, listen, it was fantastic. You know, I loved it. I was standing for it. You know, I love all you guys were tremendous, but I'm like,
I love you, Kira. Yeah.
Kira was, I mean, a goddess.
I mean, like, I don't even
like
otherworldly.
Shut it down. She killed it.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. God love whoever has to do it after her because she just, killed it. But I was just like, oh no. But anyway,
it was really hard. It was really tough stuff.
Yeah,
it was tough stuff. Yeah.
But maybe after talking to you and getting a more understanding, I could stand more for the opera. But right now, I'm on team, put it over there.
Yeah.
Although people love it, the companies are doing it,
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, just the libretto and the music alone. I mean, Missy and Royce. It's one of those. It's beautiful. It's moving. It's so well crafted, and the story it's a tough story, but in this version, in my point of view, it's about the self-sacrifice for love. I mean, Bess did these things to save Jan. And the brutality of the world that comes in on you.
Right.
I mean, she was a true angel in this world, and she was sacrificed for it. That's how I experienced it. I
need to see it again, but I need to see a live production. I see.
Yeah.
On the small screen. I love going to the theater, so sign me up to go to.
I know. Yeah, and then James's production is haunting and beautiful and wonderful.
Absolutely.
Okay, I love you. Thank you.
We love you, AJ. You too. We love you. Sue. Hey, Sue. Okay, I know Sue's in the combos crew, so we love Sue. She's the general director of Portland Opera.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, we love Sue.
So talk to me about, I just want to take this moment to publicly congratulate you for taking a leadership role and having that voice and input into programming, both at Banff and Portland. And I think that's incredible, and I'm proud of you. And thank you for doing that.
Thank you, sister. I love giving my voice to people, my opinion. But yeah, I mean, for me, I think I'm blessed to have it. And I think this platform had a lot to do with a lot of different things that have come on my plate. And also those who know me know that it's a natural fit, I think, I am committed to this art form, not only through my talent, my gift, but in my gift,
Yes,
an extension of that. And anything that I can do to make it better, and what I think can make it better, I think continue it on and keep it thriving and relevant.
But don't you feel that we have that responsibility, right? We all have that responsibility as artists.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We see our mentors, our teachers pass on, and it's like, we're the ones. This thing lives within us from generation to generation, and it has been passed on for the past, for the hundreds of years that opera has been opera, and it's shifted and it's changed, and but it's now our responsibility, and we have a tremendous opportunity here in this time to grow it, make it more equitable, to continue to have it speak in the way that it is impactful. That is our responsibility. And so keep going on that.
Yeah, you too. I know Mary asked a question about filming.
Filming in my house. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to flip this around because this room is right now, but I have an entire separate computer and tech setup. There was a whole green screen behind me when we did the opera. And I changed I had like 3 camera angles, and I had to shift each scene for what we were doing and do my own costumes, my own deck, and my own all this, and just sang right into the camera. I mean, I'm on my computer right now, but they had a nice Logitech camera for us, and a head mic that was through Pro Tools. And James was somewhere running the camera cues.
It's like a film set.
Excuse me?
It's like a film set.
Yeah. No, my apartment was a soundstage. My apartment had been transformed into a soundstage.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was really cool, actually. Yeah. And what role is my ultimate goal right now?
Wow.
I mean, I really, so, there's this woman named Emily that's been haunting me. And I've been working on her for a while. So
really?
She'll get there. She'll get there. But I'm really drawn to Wagner. I'm really drawn to Wagner. I mean, I'd love to, in the Ring, I'd love to actually like sing a Norn and Altrauta and sing a Fricka. And then,
are you listening? Yes.
Yes. And then, go on from there and looking at all of that kind of dramatic mezzo.
Quandary and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I was going to cover my first Brongana at the Met this year. And yeah.
Yeah.
What I was going to do, I was going to cover my first Omneris. Yes.
Were you at the Met or?
Was, yes. 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 I mean, yes.
That's okay.
So there's a lot of stuff that I was like ready to launch into that I have to wait a little bit longer. But yeah, just give me a deadline, y'all. Just give me a deadline. It will be locked and loaded.
I would love to do Aida with you, although she's not one of my favorites to sing. Dramatically, I love it. I just, when I sing it, I'm like, I can't stop thinking all night. Like I have to continue. Yeah. It's not a moment where you can just
where you can just.
And maybe other people feel differently about it. I mean, I don't have to sing Aida. It's finding other things that I desire to sing, but I would sing it. I would love to sing it with you.
Oh, that would be so much fun. Something with you.
Yeah. Marcus, do you find it more interesting to revisit a role or create a new one?
I mean, I haven't actually had the opportunity to revisit roles very often. It's bizarre. Because when you do a lot of new work, oftentimes it gets done again, sometimes by different casts, different producers, and you're not in control of getting cast.
Yes. Where's my line?
I mean, that's the other thing. But yeah, that's so, or it just doesn't get done again. There's a really cool new work, but it just never gets done again. And then in the traditional rep, I say I am the reigning Sigruna. I have sung that Valkyrie at every major opera house in this country, and I have been grateful. I'm very grateful to have done so. And I actually really like her a lot, but that's really the only role that I've done more than once outside of Isabella that I can really think of. I'd love to do Gertrude again in Hamlet. That was fun. I did that with Washington Concert Opera last year. And that was hard. That's a hard sing, but it is that scene with Hamlet. Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, mama and son getting it all out.
Exactly.
That, which was amazing. And of course, Anthony Walker. And yeah, so I'd love to do that again. But yeah, I don't know. I don't get to do a lot of things again, which is weird because usually that's kind of what happens in opera, but
right. People build their career through.
yeah, like you're known for a couple of roles and you do it all over the place. Yeah, that's just not that hasn't been my path.
Absolutely. And there are various, and I always keep stressing to everyone, so many types of careers to have in this industry and still be successful. And that we all oftentimes always just focus on certain.
There is no one way. There is no one way. And there is no like, you're successful, you're not successful. I mean, there are many people that have kept music in their lives and cultivated their life in a different way that is not exclusive to performing. And that doesn't mean that they've somehow given up or they're not successful. Like everybody's path and everybody's combination of how music factors into their life is going to look different for every person. And it's a personal thing. And sometimes you actually don't have control over it too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most of the times you don't have control over it.
You don't have control over.
I don't care. There's a certain percentage of people, very, 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 very small, that get to control. But then
dictate or get to say, but it's very rare.
It's very rare. Yes. Omer had a question.
If you play any straight play role, what would it be? I really want to do the Heidi Chronicles.
The Heidi Chronicles.
Heidi Wasserstein. Yes.
That's exciting.
I've definitely been like, should I like this pandemic thing? I don't know. Maybe I should just like go take acting classes. And then I was like, are you listening to yourself? Why would you possibly like go take like that? That's like some kind of a better option. Like that's going to lead to more work. Yeah, I'll just go be an actress. That's a great
right. Because listen, when I was doing that thing with Leif Schreiber,
yes.
and he was asking me like, so how's it going with you? And I was like, oh, but I mean, I'm pretty busy with all the things that I'm doing. And I'm like, how about you? He was like, yeah, shockingly, only because he said I hustled for 10 years.
Yeah,
but I'm busy like right now.
Yeah,
I
mean, it's like the grass is always greener, man.
Yes.
I would like to just study straight acting just because I love it so much.
Mm-hmm.
Hi.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I do secretly want to be a movie star. I mean, come on. That
was day one. That's day one for you. So that never leaves you.
It doesn't. I know, right? It doesn't. It never leaves you. Mm-hmm. I remember Bette Midler was waiting backstage for Bryn after one of the rings, and I went up to her and said like that thing that like you never say. I wanted to be you when I grew up. Like. What?
And she looked at you like,
no, because this woman is 100% heart and class.
Okay.
And she looked at me and she said, "You are."
Ooh.
You have. Yeah.
See?
Yes. That is, that's one of the things it's interesting, right? When you come across famous people or well-known people and how they react to you and how they treat you. It says so much about how they feel about themselves. And I'm always so grateful when they're gracious.
Absolutely. I remember being in Porgy this year, and Denise was, singing, and I remember sitting next to her at a party or something. It was one of the class parties or whatever, something very small. And I told her, I said, I always used to wish, because I've known Denise a long time, and she was like sort of the first person that I saw sing opera live, and she just always has been such an inspiration to me. And I said, I always hoped that you would like tell me things and like, kind of anymore. But I am grateful that you didn't tell me everything and all the things that I wanted to know. I'm grateful. And she kind of took a moment and just like sat there, like, because if she would have told me, I wouldn't have believed her.
Yeah.
And if she would have told me the things that I thought I wanted to know, I don't think that it would have, it would have not been the best thing. And so I'm grateful to her.
That is such a tremendous gift that she gave you, right? Because sometimes it's not hers to tell. It's yours to discover.
Right.
And what a gift she gave you.
Absolutely. And I'm a little bit different in my approach when I am with younger singers. I am a little bit more honest, but again, I think only because the education and the things that they're getting now is a little bit lackluster in a way, and the training is not in the path because of all this social media. They don't, they are getting, they're not prepared in a way. And I could be wrong, and y'all can kill me, and y'all can criticize me, y'all can say,
I don't have my finger on that pulse. I don't really know what's going on right now in the curricula.
Right. And it's just like a lot of the artists and singers are not as prepared for the track, for the career in a way. And so I feel responsible to tell younger singers a little bit more than what was told to me. And it's a generational thing, right? The generation before was very different than our generation, and then vice versa. But I am a little bit more like, if you don't do this thing is not going to happen. I don't care who you see doing the thing or how you think they got there. If you don't do A, B, C, D, or whatever that is, then it's, it will.
I mean, at the end of the day, if you can't sing on that stage and make that sound that you need to make, that's all that matters. I think you just froze. But at the end of the day, it's just you. It's just you and your technique at the end of the day. And it's hard work. It's hard work to sing, to travel. Like, and the older you get, like, I'm like schlepping my thing around. I just sang. I have to sing another thing a week later. And I'm exhausted, and I'm missing my family, and there's this and there's that. And I'm like, I don't like being by myself in a hotel. Like, I hate it. I get lonely. It's horrible. I eat all the bad food. Like, it's just like, and, I had an experience last year where I had some back-to-back gigs, and the first gig, it was the same thing. And the first gig was like, boo, it was magic. And by the time I got to the second engagement, like, I had like nothing left. And I was like, why is this one so much more difficult? I just did this last week. Like, well, because it's back-to-back traveling. You haven't been home. You've been on the road. Like, it takes a toll. And it's like, if you cannot, not only technically, but psychologically and mentally have yourself in a place where you can focus, where you have that energy, focus and execute, that's the work, right? Like, that's the work, and the confidence in your own technique,
right? Both
vocally and your mental technique, because I think that's a huge part of the game.
Absolutely, it is.
It's mental stamina to get through a string of performances where you are focusing.
Yeah.
Did you ever, like, in the middle of a show and all of a sudden you start like tweaking out? I don't know if that happens. Like, sometimes it happens to me where, like, I'll start being like, oh, what's the next line? Like, where am I? And, like, I start playing tricks on myself because it's anxiety. And so then I have like mantras, and I have to do breathing exercises, and I have like my own method of kind of getting myself back into the zone. Mental practice.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm getting to a point where I hear myself saying focus, and it could be age, it could be, it's hard to do and I'm not even old, but again, when you've been doing it for so long,
life is still happening around you. In these glass bubbles, we get to get unlocked with a key, and we come out when it's time to sing an opera. I mean, like, we're coming from the house. We just got off the phone with our accountant, and we've got the kid and the school and the thing, and we got to pay the bills, and there's this and that, and then my hip's really hurting. And, it's like life is happening, and then you walk into the theater, and then you have to focus.
Do that thing, exactly.
Do that thing, right? And so it's an exercise. It's a practice. Absolutely. It's a discipline.
It's a discipline, absolutely. So as we're winding down on our time, and I am so grateful for you to spend your evening with us here and sharing your story and sharing all your words of wisdom. And I'm just so grateful for your friendship for so many years, the sisterhood that we have. And we have some hard conversations. We've had some in the past, in this particular time that we're in. And this is a question that I always want to ask my friends or my colleagues who are not, artists of color. Like, what is this time? I don't want to end this combos without, having that kind of conversation and expressing that, because the last 7 or 8 months has affected all of us, COVID. But when you start to add on all the movements and all the
we're wrapping up and you're free, because there's a whole other. So
that's how you get another 25 minutes. She is a professional. Okay,
you know what you're doing. So yeah, this is a lot, because I will say, first of all, where do I start?
Yes.
Where do you start? It is a tremendous breakthrough that has happened in our society, in our country. Unfortunately, through the means of having inexcusable brutality being so much in our purview that we can no longer ignore it. We can no longer look the other way. As a white person of privilege, it feels like there's been a veil that's been lifted in the way I've been looking at the world. It's like I didn't even realize all of the microaggressions and all of the racist little thoughts or things that I would never even have caught them before, but that they're there because that's just because of the systemic reality of racism in this country. And it has made me have to look at myself and really look at myself in a way that's not always easy.
Mm-hmm.
I did not come from a liberal, non-racist background. I mean, just to put it out there, like I come from a white town America where they're struggling to this day between the Trump signs and the Biden signs. And not everybody has had the experience of being around people that aren't like them. Mm-hmm. And they keep on drinking the Kool-Aid, and they keep on perpetuating the lies and the hate that is fueling this fire. And it is hard work to look in the mirror, to look at myself, to look at my past, stupid things I've said, ignorant things, never out of malice, but just out of ignorance. Mm-hmm. And to learn that and to say, oh, that was racist. Am I racist? I don't want to be racist, but I need to educate myself. Mm-hmm. And I need to be uncomfortable. You know, as a white person, we need to be uncomfortable in order for us to come to the table and fix this thing. It's not easy. It's really hard. But I don't have it as hard as people of color, you know. Oh, I'm uncomfortable. I've been so used to being in a place of privilege and being comfortable that this discomfort is something that I'm not used to, but many people are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And having to explain to my son what's happening and why these things are happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big lesson, but it's important to talk about it from the beginning, you know, and to talk about this country's history of enslavement
Mm-hmm.
and the systemic racism that has gone to willingly and actively oppress people of color and deny them of their humanity. I mean, you cannot bury that. You cannot move on as a country and pretend that that did not happen. You know?
Mm-hmm.
And just because my ancestors weren't here at the time doesn't mean that I have not participated in the system.
Mm-hmm.
You know? It's like nobody's off the hook. Like we are all Americans and we all need to look and educate. And it's not about, and stop the hate and recognize that.
Mm-hmm.
But, and so like, if we go back into opera and we go back into, and here's a question for you, because I've really been struggling with this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is it appropriate for me to sing Omneris? You
I
know?
never even thought about why wouldn't it be?
Well, I mean, isn't she an African? She is African as well, isn't she?
Mm-hmm. She's Egyptian. Yeah, that's in Africa.
Egyptian.
What
you think as a white woman? I don't know. I mean,
I guess I never thought about. I never thought about. I mean, if it was maybe a black composer, and the story. I don't know. That's a very interesting argument, because all the cultural appropriation and all the conversations over painting and blackface, which I think what they do in Europe is blackfaced. What they do in America is not. But again, there are different camps for that. I believe, I don't know. I never thought about it like that. Because then again, it comes down to the casting agents and the casting, directors and people like that, and also directors, and asking them those questions as well.
Yeah, and what the production's concept is going to be, and
but there's always this idea that whiteness can be anything, and everyone else
and everyone else can't. Right.
Like,
I understand that it's a fine line to start dancing around if we're going to not perpetuate colorblind casting. But the problem is when you start remounting pieces that are so specific, and frankly, I mean, like I've been thinking, like how does one do L'Italiano and Algeri and not be completely offensive?
Mm-hmm. Right.
I don't know. It doesn't mean that it's not a lot of these pieces were of their time, and it doesn't, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but then someone will tell me, well, I can't play the Queen of Spain, or
right, exactly. Because if we're going to go there, then are we going to go there?
We're going to go there.
It's a complicated thing because this repertoire was actually, this particular repertoire, you shouldn't sing. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. I mean, it's like, I don't know, but these are questions, right? These are my questions. Like, what stories are we telling? Why are we telling them? What's appropriate? What's not appropriate?
Yeah.
I think colorblind casting, whatever that means, not necessarily. Then we get into troubled water if we start, dictating this and that, because then we have to do the opposite, and that's ridiculous.
Right.
But on the other hand, if we're in a specific time and a specific place portraying a specific culture,
Mm-hmm.
then what do you do? But then that's dumb because of course anybody could sing Tosca, right? So I don't know.
Yeah, I think having people in positions of leadership that are not only sensitive but understand the multi-dimensional, multi-layered, complicated issues around societal issues, which I don't think in opera. We all live in this bubble. We all exist in this world and we all just move in the bubble. I don't think there are there are many enough leaders in this industry that have a full rounded experience of the world. And that's why, and I probably will get in trouble again for this, but I don't care because they don't. We live in this bubble of privilege. There are only men who run companies. You know what I mean? But major companies, there's so few women and so few people of color, even less, and or so few people that have had experiences in life that bring their experience into their work. And I just feel like if we have more of that, if we have more of these people, that bring their life experience, all of the richness into their decision making for their companies, I think things would be a little bit different. And it could be just a magical, mystical thinking that I have, but I do think that it's necessary to do that. And I think that there would be more sensitivity and understanding when it comes to creating art.
100%. I mean, yes, we need to open up the doors and let more people in.
Yeah. And what does that mean? What is that? And I'm also so curious. And I got to ask Weston this, but it was such a weird. I asked him after, but like, what has this time been like for my? Are we all going to be out of work now? Or are we all going to be out of the running since things? I mean, that's a real thing. That's a real kind of like thought. And I'm curious, like, what are this, not that you need to, you not the example of the discussions that are going on, but I wonder now in this time, like what does that mean? How are people feeling?
So you cut out in the very beginning of the question. So can you repeat the question for me? Uh-oh, you froze. Oh no, Karen.
Oh, technology. Are you back?
There you are. I'm here. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So what does it mean? Can you just repeat the question?
When Weston and I had our combo, we talked afterwards about, I wonder what this time is like for my white colleagues, because they're seeing all of this things and they may be thinking like, oh shit, is my career over? You know what I mean?
Oh, man, that's ridiculous. Yeah, no, I think that's so funny because I don't know if I'm frozen right now, so I'll just, because you're frozen. But it's funny because I never think that way. Am I still frozen? I don't think that way at all, because it's that thing where it's like, I am coming from privilege and I am supposed to feel uncomfortable right now because things are changing and this is what it feels like. Hello, this is not new. This is not a new experience for many people that are non-white, and so I do not mind feeling a little uncomfortable and not necessarily, I don't feel threatened because I'm white. I am so grateful that we are recognizing and diversifying and making our art form more equitable, because it only makes it better. We're also, we need to embrace, we are Americans, and Americans are so diverse and multicultural, and we need to lean on that. It's such a rich, rich history, and it only strengthens our art form. I mean, Karen, when I went to go see Porgy and Bess, you were phenomenal. The voices on that stage, I was like, why have I never heard these people before? Why am I only hearing them in this piece in this house? I mean, why? The talent. And it's like, come on, it is so important that we make the opportunities equitable, and that we nurture our art form, because it only makes us better.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It certainly does. And there is spaces. You open it up. You just open it up. There are more. There's more opportunities. There is.
And
Yes.
the things that have been written, the things that are being written, the work that is being written, Daniel Romaine and Terence Blanchard and Bill Banfield, and there's so much talent. There's so much Black American talent that needs to participate in this art form.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thank you, Kaylin. When you get down to the human relationships, you're talking about the diversity and casting by what you look like. And it is, I think it's right, it's true. One of the incredible things about opera is that we transcend that, and it's about the music, and it's about the human relationships, and it's about the story.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing that I think also frees us as an art form.
Absolutely.
From a lot of the things that as actors we would have to be really dealing with, but we can really rely on the music and our artistry.
Absolutely. So I think my hotel internet is like, ma'am. Ma'am. So that's probably why it's all doing all this thing. I'm not at home, but I just leave us with something, Eve, to take with us through our, as we go into this week, which is a big week for Americans.
Oh my God. Well, first of all, go vote. Please go vote. If you haven't voted, please go vote. And, so many people you've heard a lot, and I've thought it before, if things don't go the way I want them to go, I'm leaving. I'm going elsewhere. But it's like, you know what? We're not going anywhere. We're staying, and we're fighting, and we're voting, and we're showing up, and we're writing, and we're singing, and we're performing, and we're marching, and we're standing up, and we're showing up, because that's who we are. And I'm proud to be an American. I'm proud to be an American singer in this world. And I believe in the power of art to change the world. And I believe that everybody who's watching, and everybody who uses their artistic talents to share, has something to say. And you matter. You matter.
Mm-hmm. You matter. Exactly. Thank you, Miss Gigliotti.
Thank you so much, Karen. I love you so much.
I love you so much for gracing us with all of your beautiful words and your story. And please like and share this as usual. You know how we do. And now I am streaming from my fan page. After 30 episodes, I found out. Shout out to my friend Bernie, who does the show on Monday. He's like, you can stream on from the same thing. Anyway, whatever. I get so excited about Thursdays. I love this show, and I love sharing this platform with my friends. But anyway, so now we're streaming on all the things, and we're growing, and people are interested in what we're doing. So you might see us in some great, cool places soon. Tune in next week. Next Thursday, I have a wonderful industry leader. Not a singer, not a director, not anyone who runs an opera house. So she to hear his take on this. So tune in, same time, same bad channel, every Thursday. Anyway, I love you, Eve, and I will see you all. Yeah. I might do another live on Tuesday. I don't know. Stay tuned. But anyway, I don't know. Anyway, I love you. I'll talk to you all soon. Bye.
Bye.